Okay. When Calls the Heart has us all wondering, where does everyone live? Some characters we know where they live, others we don't. And we really want to know, where does Lucas Bichard live? Since you're here, click that button and subscribe. And that is what we are discussing today. That is the topic. This is episode 4 out of the 4-part series. And we're going to talk about Lucas Bichard and where he lives, which means where he spends his day, what it can tell us, what it's told us, what it might be hinting about in the future, fill in some gaps that we may or may not know. And also, where does he actually lay his head at night? Like, where does he sleep? Where is his real home? Okay, many people thought that he lived upstairs in one of the rooms at the saloon, or just assume that. Even Allie did. Allie in season 8 says to him, "Do you live here?" And he laughs and he says no. So let's talk about the saloon first. The saloon is number 1. What I wanted to say about the saloon is that it's like a metaphor to me. It was a little bit of a rough and tumble place before Lucas bought it. And Lucas comes in, he buys it, and he classes it up. He makes it a place where everybody can be. He brings all of his experiences from his world traveling there, but also he has this desire to have a family. He has a family, but it's like they've never really spent much time together and in one place. And you could tell he's missing that. Even so much so when we hear him have his conversation with Jeanette, who tells him that it's perfect to live in Hope Valley, and he agrees. And then later on in season 7, when he's having dinner with Elizabeth, he says he would like to be a family man. You know, he doesn't say tumbleweed to her, but he's done being a tumbleweed because he's a bit of a tumbleweed. And he's been looking for a long time for a place to make his own. And you could see him doing that with the saloon. He brings in Gustav to class up the meals. He's classing it up, and he's also making it more of a family place. Yes, you can play darts and you can drink and you can gamble, but you can have a shower there. You can have a wedding there. You can have a movie premiere there. So that to me is like a metaphor for Lucas. His personality is coming out. He's very giving. He's very charming. He's charming up the place. Now, also in season 8, we saw a lot of Lucas on the balcony. And that to me is a metaphor. Now, part of the reason has to do with the whole COVID restrictions. So COVID restrictions, they had to be careful as to who was, you know, in a scene together, and a lot of it took place outside. But when you think about it, Lucas is upstairs on the balcony overseeing the town, right? It's like this protective part of him. He's very protective of Elizabeth. He wants the best for her. He's always looking out for her. So he's watching. He's also distanced from her, giving her space. You would see her come into town. She's walking through town. She's in the center of town. She's interacting with many different people, but that's just her place in the town. She's the teacher. She's also the wife of the late Mountie, who was very much loved and respected. So them as a couple were very important to the town. So she's interacting, and I find her interactions to be what is her past and her present. And she's trying to make a decision about her future. And she would look up and she would see him there. Sometimes she would see him. Sometimes he would have walked away by that point, but she's always looking up. So he's there for when she's ready. He's her future, and he's also in the distance. He likes to give her space. So I love the whole, this is who Lucas is. This is what we kind of know, the foundation of him with the saloon. So I strongly had predicted, and I still think so, and we kind of saw some behind the scenes pictures, that he didn't sell the saloon. It's too much of who he is. Maybe he will struggle and lose the saloon. I'm not sure, but I did see new menus go up in the saloon that have to do with Gustav. We saw a scene of him actually in the saloon, and then we saw some pictures of, you know, the sign and thank you, Peter DeLuise. So I'm predicting that full steam ahead. A lot of action is going to take place in the saloon. A lot of scenes are going to happen there. That level of danger that I keep talking about is elevated. I'm sure something's going to go down in the saloon. Okay, now we go over to another part of the saloon, the office, Lucas's office. That's another reason why I felt that the Saloon was not going to be owned by someone else. They went to such great detail, they being the set directors, the set decorators, to build this part of the set, give Lucas this office, and we learned so much about him from the office. Now stay with me, because I actually have chatted a bit with one of the set decorators, and she gave me some information about the office and about when they actually put together all the little props in a set and what they mean. So when we first get introduced to Lucas's office, we're seeing it through the eyes of Elizabeth. She walks in, he's on the phone, and because he's on the phone, this gives her a chance to wander around and look at all of the pieces.
Bonjour, Paul. Comment ça va? Bien, bien, merci. Quoi? Pourquoi? Un autre acheteur? Paul, ce n'est pas du tout ce que nous avons convenu.
So we're getting a tour. We're seeing things that we already know about Lucas, like his love for magic, and we see the Houdini posters. Also his love for Asian culture. As you're going around, you can see the posters. You can see the tea cups. He loves Asian culture. We find out about that from when he was a big traveler, and he talks about one of his Christmas travels, and that's why he does the whole carnival, and he lights the the lanterns. We know that about him, but there's a lot we don't know. And if you pay attention, you will see that he has a love for trains, he has a love for baseball, and he has a love for ships. Now check those out. I'm going to come back to those three things. But before I go any further, I want to talk to you about what the set decorator said. I'm not revealing her name only because just in case people bombard her with questions, I want to protect her privacy. It's not like she gave me the big scoop, but I was asking her about, as a viewer, how much attention should we be paying to, the props that are in a scene? And because as a reader, I know they're important. And she said they are important. They are a window into the characters' lives or the setting of wherever the story is taking place. And she said that they do put props in there that are hints to things to come. She said, but she often, when Calls the Heart viewers are like so in tune, we find those little snippets out, and she laughed about that. She also said that when they set up the props, like for Lucas's office, I specifically also asked her about that. She said they take consideration into what the actor thinks about their character. So she'll stop, she'll chat with them. She also said that every set is different, but in this case with when she's working on When Calls the Heart, she likes to see, I guess, get their perspective on what the actor feels about their character. So those things that we're seeing inside Lucas's office are definitely windows into who he is, what his life was like, and things to come. She also pointed out that when she chats with the actor, like when she set up Gowan's office, she said that it was a nod, not really to the character, but more to the actor, because his eldest son, Martin's eldest son, is a photographer. So she put those old-timey cameras in there for him. It doesn't, take away from the scene at all or the set, but that's just something fun that she likes to do and personalize it for them. So now let's get back to this office, okay? So we saw, like I said, how we were introduced to the office. And then I wanted you to pay attention to some things here. So right here in the corner, I call this the sports area. That is a face shield for baseball that is mounted up to the beam. You see a tennis racket, and then you see the croquet sticks. That was a very popular game, croquet, during that time, around the time frame of when Calls the Heart is taking place. It even was sort of like a tournament, and you could compete and win money. So it was also an elitist type of a game, and a little bit of snobbery went into it for who could get to play in the tournaments. But I'm not surprised that Lucas would play that game just because of his upbringing. Also, the tennis, I'm not surprised, and I'm so fascinated by the love of baseball. Now, I can be totally wrong on this, but I want to point out some really cool, ironic things, okay? So let's look at the baseball card and the baseballs that he has. He has two that are signed. When you pay attention to that, trying to figure out who it was. And I saw on some fan pages other people did too. I don't remember what it was that they said, but my dad loves baseball, so I asked him some questions, and he said to him it looked like it was Christy Mathewson, and he was very, very popular during this time. And I was like, oh my God, I love that idea, OMG, because he was called the Big Six, but he was a tall, big man, but he was also known as the Christian gentleman. And here's what the irony was. During that time, baseball players were kind of like shady, like the Pinkertons. They were rough and tumble, and they had a bad rap, okay? And along comes this man who changes the face of that. He was very much a gentleman, very much soft-spoken, very private, very clean. Got the contract with the Giants. In his contract, he put in there, he promised his mother he would not play ball on a Sunday, he wouldn't work on a Sunday, and he carried his Bible on the road. So what's so cool is, if you remember back in season 7, when Nathan was upset when he found out that Lucas and Elizabeth had taken a trip together to see Virginia Woolf. He's outside chopping that wood, that delicious scene of him chopping the wood. Over comes Bill to talk to him, and he's like, let's talk, let's air things out. What do you want to talk about? He's like, nothing. And then he's like, okay, baseball. Well, who's your favorite, baseball player? And he says, Ty Cobb. Here's the irony of this, okay? If that is Christy Mathewson, and that is one of Lucas's favorite baseball players, and we know Ty Cobb is Nathan's. Ty Cobb and Christy Mathewson, they actually knew each other, were actual friends, were both wonderful gentlemen, and actually fought in the war with the whole French part, with the gas masks and all that gassing that they did. And they were in a terrible situation together where they had to try to help each other out. And Ty Cobb actually was able to get his face mask on, but Christy was not. And then it destroyed Christy's lungs. I mean, he suffered for years from that. But those two guys were friends. I'm like, So we absolutely know that Ty Cobb is Nathan's favorite. And then all of a sudden, it would be so cool that they choose Christy for Lucas. I'm thinking, oh boy, this is like a message to the future. It could also be my happy thinking that these two are destined to start out this way and then become really good friends. I don't know. Over baseball, maybe. Who knows? But that is my prediction when it comes to that. Also, I wanted you to pay attention. I said to the trains, the baseball, and the ships. There's quite a few pieces of information in there. And that is because I want to talk about a behind-the-scenes glimpse that we got this past summer for season 9. But you know what? Hold that thought before I forget. And I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to go with my flow here. It's easier. Pay attention to a lot of the beach scenes. You'll see shells, him at the different beaches, and especially in this particular scene right here. And I'm sorry, not scene, in this particular picture right here. I'm wondering if Lucas, I think Lucas was an only child. I mean, he made reference to, he didn't have much to do, so he taught himself magic tricks. That's what he was telling Cody when he and Cody first met at Abigail's and he was having dinner and Faith was standing next to him. They played with the quarter. And also he mentioned, books were his friend because they traveled so much. So if he had brothers and sisters, then I would imagine they interacted. And then also there was when his mother, Helen Bouchard, thought he, got hurt over at the oil derrick. She says, "You're all that I have," which kind of was a slip because at that time Lucas didn't know he and his mom were separating. He goes, "Oh, you're being dramatic." But I was also wondering if maybe she had a child before and lost that child and all she has is Lucas. But then I don't think he would have been so insensitive to say you're being dramatic. You know what I mean? If she had lost a child. So if you see, he is with other children on the beaches, and then he's also by himself on the beaches. I'm not quite sure in this group shot which one is him, but you'll see one kid away from the others. But again, I feel like this is a hint into he loves the beach, but that he's an only child. And if he isn't an only child, something happened to one of his siblings. And for the most part, he was an only child. Okay, so now the trains, I keep saying that and repeating myself, and I'm sorry about that. The trains, the planes, and the little pull toy dog. I am going to show you all those things in this behind the scenes clip right here. So this is from the yellow house that is next to Nathan's office, or the jail rather, but across the street from the saloon. So we wonder, where does Lucas live? Could he live in this house? My prediction is that he doesn't live in anything big. We know he does not live upstairs or in the saloon itself, because he said that to Allie, and then as an actor, he said that too. He doesn't live in the saloon. So he spends most of his time there. He has this office that is filled with all familiar things to him. So I'm thinking that he does have a place for him to shower. It has a place for him to bathe, to get, go to sleep, to wake up. But everything he needs is at the saloon. He can get his meals at the saloon, or he can go right to Abigail's. All of that stuff is there. So I'm thinking maybe he has a small place in town. Now, if it is the yellow house next to the saloon, in my mind, it makes sense. But here's why I'm thinking he's somehow connected at least to that house. In the window, you see all the toys. All those toys, people were thinking it was a toy shop. If it was a toy shop, they would be more organized. And why are there only boys' toys in there? Now, I know nowadays we're like, there's no girl toys, boy toys. Don't forget, this is 19, 17, 18, okay? There are boys' toys and girls' toys. So when you pay attention, you'll notice that there are several trains, boats. There's other boy toys too, but there's quite a few trains and boats and more than one baseball. Sort of the same toys that Lucas has in his office now. So are those Lucas's toys from when he was younger? And does he have them out so baby Jack can play with them when he and his mother are spending time together? Also, I know it's just a prop and a set on the set, and they spend a lot of time in town, but really, why would they go all the way out to set up something like that to just be in the background when you're walking by? I mean, they really went to quite a bit there, adding all the toys. Now, if you notice, there's a dog. That's a pulley dog. It's not the same dog that Lucas gave little Jack in episode 1. If you notice, when he's in the street, little Jack, and he's pulling it where the stagecoach is, that's a much bigger dog. But maybe Lucas bought him that dog because it reminded him of the pull dog he had as a child. So I'm thinking that window scene has something to do with Lucas. I could be totally wrong, and if I am, I'm sorry. But this is me just getting excited because I can't wait for season 9. Okay, now I also predict that if Lucas does not have a small place to live in town, he may have something on the outskirts. We do see him traveling back and forth on the outskirts, like maybe a small little cabin or something in the woods. I do not think it is a big, giant house. I think it's, even though he likes big, beautiful things, I think it's small and it's rustic or plain because he doesn't need that. Yet he's a smart businessman. There's a house already established there, and I'm sure there's some grounds and land, because in the back of his mind, one day he wanted a family. So I don't think he'd want a big house and then his wife didn't have a say in it. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking he has something there that he can expand on. That would be my other choice. But here's the thing. I predict, of course, we're going to find out where Lucas Bichard lives. Not only is he going to get to go inside Elizabeth's house, we're going to see Elizabeth go inside his house. I love the idea that he is going to sort of make it like homey for even the baby Jack or little Jack, because little Jack is toddler Jack now. And the idea of those toys also being, his old toys, and then little Jack can play with them. I don't know. There's something that warms my heart about that. Okay, so Lucas Bichard, where does he live? These are my ideas. Now, if you're paying attention and you've made it this far, if you can give me some other information about the photo of the baseball player, that it is not Christy Mathewson and it's maybe somebody else, I would love it. Put it in the comments below. And I'm going to research it. And I'm also going to give you something. I have a giveaway. And I know people do that on their podcasts and their YouTube channels and stuff. And I don't want you to feel like it's a gimmick. But I have something I think you will like. It is not baseball related, but it is related to When Calls the Heart. Okay, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the wonderful comments and the emails and the messages and my mailbox being filled with things. It's just so great for you to be interacting with me. I really love it and appreciate it. And you have a good night. Let's see. Where does Lucas Bouchard really live? I'm so excited to find out in season 9. It can't come fast enough.